My name is Elena Ramirez, and I never imagined my dream of a quiet life would turn into a nightmare orchestrated by a band of entitled busybodies. It all started 2 years ago when I inherited my grandfather's old cabin on the outskirts of Willow Creek Estates. The place was a relic, a cozy log structure nestled among towering pines, with a wraparound porch and a stone chimney that whispered tales of simpler times. Grandpa had built it with his own hands back in the 70s, long before the developers swooped in and turned the surrounding land into a gated community of McMansions. The HOA had grudgingly grandfathered in the cabin under some ancient clause, but they made it clear, it was an eyesore, a blemish on their perfect suburbia. I was 35, freshly divorced, and craving solitude after a messy split from my ex-husband, who had left me for his secretary. The cabin was my sanctuary. I quit my corporate job in the city, packed up my life, and moved in with my rescue dog, Max, a scruffy mutt with one ear perpetually cocked like he was always listening for trouble. The first few weeks were bliss. I'd wake to birdsong, sip coffee on the porch watching deer graze, and tend to a small vegetable garden I'd started in the backyard. But bliss doesn't last in places like Willow Creek. The trouble began with a knock, not the aggressive kind, but the polite, nosy variety. It was Karen, yes, her name was actually Karen Whitaker, the HOA president, a woman in her mid-50s with a bleach blonde bob, yoga pants that screamed, "I brunch on Sundays," and a smile that could curdle milk. She stood there with a clipboard, her husband Bob trailing behind like a shadow, holding a measuring tape. "Elena, dear," she cooed, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We're just doing our rounds. You know, to ensure compliance." Compliance. That word would haunt me. She eyed my garden like it was a crime scene. "Those tomato plants, they're a bit unruly, don't you think? And your cabin, well, it's charming in a rustic way, but the paint is peeling. We have standards here." I forced a smile. "It's been in the family for decades, Karen. I'll touch it up when I can." Her eyes narrowed. "See that you do. We wouldn't want any issues." Bob nodded vigorously, as if his opinion mattered. That was the spark. From then on, the complaints rolled in like storm clouds. First, it was my mailbox. Apparently, the wooden one Grandpa carved didn't match the uniform aesthetic. I replaced it with their approved metal monstrosity. Then, my truck, too old, too dusty. I parked it in the garage, out of sight. But nothing satisfied them. Whispers turned to notes slipped under my door. "Your dog barks too much. Trim those hedges. That cabin doesn't belong." I tried to fit in. I attended an HOA meeting, dressed in my best jeans and blouse, hoping to make allies. The community center was a sterile hall with fluorescent lights and folding chairs arranged in perfect rows. Karen presided like a queen, gavel in hand. When I raised my hand during the open forum, the room fell silent. "I just want to say I'm happy to be here," I started, my voice steady. "The cabin's been part of this land forever. Maybe we can work together." A murmur rippled through the crowd. An older man, Mr. Hargrove, sneered, "That shack is lowering our property values. It's time it went." Karen banged her gavel. "We'll discuss it later, Elena." Next item, later turned out to be a petition. I found it in my mail, a formal demand to modernize or vacate. 50 signatures, including the Whitakers. My blood boiled. This wasn't about aesthetics, it was about me. I was a single Latina woman in a sea of white, upper-middle-class families. They saw me as an outsider, someone who didn't belong. Grandpa had fought similar battles in his day, but he was gone now, and it was up to me. I ignored the petition at first, focusing on my new freelance writing gig. But the harassment escalated. One morning, I woke to find my garden trampled, tomato vines snapped, soil churned. Max barked furiously at the fence, where I spotted footprints leading back to the Whitakers' yard. No proof, of course. Then came the anonymous calls to animal control, claiming Max was vicious. An officer showed up, but Max just wagged his tail and licked his hand. "Seems friendly to me," the officer said, shooting me a sympathetic look. Karen wasn't done. She rallied her cronies, Susan from down the street, who baked casseroles laced with gossip, and Todd, the real estate agent who eyed my property like a vulture. They started a whisper campaign. "She's probably squatting. Does she even own it?" I overheard them at the local grocery store, their voices carrying like poison. The emotional toll hit hard. Nights blurred into tears, my pillow soaked as I questioned everything. Why fight? Maybe I should sell and leave. But Grandpa's voice echoed in my mind. This land is ours, mija. Don't let them take it. He had fled poverty in Mexico, built this life from nothing. Giving up felt like betraying him. Suspense built like a gathering storm. One evening, as dusk painted the sky orange, I received an official HOA notice, a fine for structural non-compliance, $500, payable immediately, or face eviction proceedings. I stormed to Karen's McMansion, her porch lights blazing like interrogation lamps. "Karen, this is ridiculous," I shouted when she opened the door, her face a mask of feigned surprise. "The cabin's grandfathered in. You can't do this." She crossed her arms. "The board voted. Your property is a hazard. We've consulted lawyers." Bob peeked from behind her. "Yeah, and if you don't pay, we'll lien the place." I left fuming, but that night, I dug into the HOA bylaws. Hours pored over dusty documents Grandpa left behind. And there it was, a clause from 1972. The cabin was exempt from aesthetic rules, and any attempt to force changes required unanimous owner consent, including mine. They couldn't touch me legally. But they didn't care about legal, they wanted me gone. The drama peaked on a rainy Friday. I was inside, typing away, when Max growled low. Headlights pierced the downpour, 2 police cruisers pulling up my gravel drive. My stomach dropped. I opened the door to Officers Ramirez, no relation, and Patel, rain dripping from their hats. "Ma'am, we've had a complaint," Ramirez said, his tone apologetic. "Trespassing and suspicious activity." Suspicious. "This is my home," they explained. An anonymous tip claimed I'd been seen, lurking, around neighbors' properties, possibly casing for burglary. I knew who it was. Karen, escalating to false accusations. As they questioned me, headlights appeared again, Karen's SUV, parking boldly. She marched up, umbrella in hand, Susan and Todd flanking her like bodyguards. "Officers, thank goodness," she exclaimed. "This woman doesn't belong here. Her cabin's a blight, and now this. We demand action." I felt heat rise in my cheeks, tears stinging. "This is harassment. They've been after me since I moved in." Patel raised a hand. "Ma'am, we're just following up. No evidence of wrongdoing." But Karen pressed. "Check her records. She's probably not even the owner." That was it. The dam broke. "I am the owner, you racist witch. Grandpa built this with his bare hands while you were probably sipping martinis." The officers exchanged glances. Ramirez pulled Karen aside, but the damage was done. I slammed the door, heart pounding, vowing revenge. Smart revenge doesn't come with fists, it comes with facts. I spent the weekend researching. Willow Creek's HOA had a dark underbelly. Digging through public records, I found discrepancies, funds misallocated, Karen's husband Bob awarding contracts to his own company. But the gold mine, Karen's property. A quick title search revealed her backyard extension encroached on community land, my grandpa's original plot, technically. I consulted a lawyer friend, Maria, who confirmed the encroachment was illegal, and since the cabin predated the HOA, I had leverage. But I needed proof. I hired a surveyor discreetly, who mapped it out. Her pool deck overlapped by 10 feet. The next HOA meeting was my stage. I arrived early, documents in hand, dressed in a sharp blazer. The room filled with the usual suspects, Karen at the helm. During open forum, I stood. "I have evidence of HOA violations, by the president herself." Gasps. Karen's face paled. "This is outrageous." I projected the survey on the wall. "Your property encroaches on mine. That's theft. And Bob's contracts. Conflicts of interest. I've reported it to the state attorney general." Chaos erupted. Members whispered, some nodding. Todd tried to defend, but Susan backed away. Karen banged her gavel futilely. "You can't prove anything," she shrieked. "Oh, but I can. And the police. False reports are a crime. I have dashcam footage from my truck showing your footprints in my garden." It was a bluff on the footage, but it landed. The room turned. Votes shifted. Karen was ousted that night. In the weeks that followed, the HOA dissolved her petty rules. My fine was dropped, and Karen faced fines of her own, $10,000 for the encroachment, forced to remove her deck. Bob's business tanked under scrutiny. They sold their house at a loss, moving to a condo downtown. As for me, the cabin stands proud, garden thriving. Neighbors wave now, some even apologize. Max barks happily, and I sip coffee on the porch, Grandpa's spirit smiling down. Revenge isn't always loud, sometimes it's the quiet click of justice locking into place. If you've faced HOA hell, share below. Like and subscribe for more stories of triumph over tyrants.